When we were handsome, strong young boys and had the world in the palm of our hands, we loved ninjas. G.I. Joe lit that fire, and as time went on, our insatiable thirst for silent assassins grew. When we slid our socks over the cuff of our pajama pants, something inside clicked and took root. We went into stealth mode. We extracted a ski mask from the coat hanger and became anonymous. We snuck up on the family dog and tackled it while it slept like a cold-blooded killing machine. We had the heart of a ninja, and we wanted more. Fast forward a year or two, and we got our wish. Lots of ninjas. Too many ninjas. Let's look at the ninja warship era of G.I. Joe. Storm Shadow was like a gateway drug. Playing with him was one thing, but pretending to be him was another. My dad made us Chinese stars, which they were called at the time, out of sheet metal. And under unwanted parental supervision, we learned how to stick them into the trunks of trees. This was only practice, of course. Later, I assumed I would use the stars to knock off generic low-level ninjas from the roof of a moving train. Later, to fight the ninja boss at the peak of a mountain. The backstory of Snake Eyes was revealed, and he too was a ninja. Thus began a great rivalry that lasts to this day. Then later we got Jinx, a female ninja who had a very feisty personality and was more of a fun character, but still carried with her the very serious traditions of the ninja. Then we got Budo, the Night Creepers, different variations of Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, Dojo, Nunchuck, Shebang, Slice, Dice, Ninja Vipers, the Night Creeper Leader, Banzai, Bushido, Red Ninjas, Blue Ninjas, Ching Zu. And then it was over. The mystique of the ninja had been too exposed. We saw too many of their faces, heard them speak too many times, learned too much about them, saw their mustache, so to speak. From a toy company perspective, I understand. If your target audience wants more ninjas, give them more ninjas. But were the ninjas that they were cranking out really good ninjas? I want to take a look at the Ninja Force, which was in 1992 and 93. We had this Storm Shadow, which I think is fine. I like it. By this time, I had aged out of collecting G.I. Joe. I was probably like a freshman in high school and was more focused on girls and cigarettes and property damage, and I wasn't paying attention to G.I. Joe. I was aware of all these characters, though, at the time. I have younger brothers. They probably continued collecting after I had stopped, so they might have still been around the house. I might have seen some commercials. I don't remember, but I was aware of them. And I might not have been aware of them in 1992, but 95 or 96, I don't know, a couple years later, sometime in that realm, I knew of all these characters, and I kind of remember how I felt about them. Nunchuck is another one I probably would have liked if he would have been more in my time period. He looks good. Slice and Dice, same thing. I liked Slice better. There was a version 2 of him where he's this orange sherbet creamsicle color, which looks awful. Here are a couple that I think were okay. They're kind of middle of the road, not bad, not great. Sking Zu, who is basically a Storm Shadow repaint. I probably would have just called him Storm Shadow instead of this unpronounceable name that he has. And again, with the goddamn orange being mixed into everything. Banzai seems fine. I don't feel one way or the other about him. Bushido seems okay. At first glance, he's not that great, but I think he would grow on me if I actually had him. And then there's a handful of these other ninjas that I just really, really dislike. So anybody that, these guys are real special to, I apologize, but some of these guys I just can't stand. I think the worst were Dojo and Shebang. The yellow. I never realized how much yellow was incorporated in all these characters' costumes. I mean, look at this guy. White pants, yellow boots, a yellow headband. What the hell's going on here? I just don't think these guys look like ninjas. They don't capture that spirit. They don't have that aura about them. These two, I think, if in the 1940s you went to an Eastern European country and paid a few rubles to see a show in a tent out in the desert, you go inside and these two guys are dancing and sword swallowing and juggling. This other guy, he was not part of the ninja force, but I still want to mention him. Budo. Something about him just rubs me the wrong way. He kind of looks like he's just playing dress up or something. I mean, he's wearing a warrior's outfit from like ancient Japanese culture. It's kind of like if we had a G.I. Joe character that was dressed as a medieval knight. It just doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of things in G.I. Joe that don't make a lot of sense, but Budo just kind of sticks out to me. I never liked that guy. I never believed him as a samurai. They turned Scarlet into a ninja. You could probably make the argument that that's okay. She was with Snake Eyes, who is certainly qualified to train someone and dub them as a ninja. But I feel like it still betrays her character because that's just not who she is. But there is probably a moment in history where she was training with a ninja, and that's all that they needed as an excuse to go out and produce this Ninja Scarlet figure. They turned Firefly into a ninja too. And again, all it takes is a couple frames in a comic book of him training with a ninja for them to call him a ninja. But I think the real crime was changing his whole costume. Then there was the Night Creeper leader, who looks ridiculous. If you want to make a G.I. Joe character look stupid, make them orange. They even made ninja vehicles. Here's the Ninja Lightning, which is kind of a goofy looking motorcycle. They had the Pile Driver and the Battle Axe, which were ninja vehicles. They came with a ninja driver because ninjas are famous for being excellent drivers and operating heavy equipment. And soon after all this, the real American hero toy line came crumbling down. The Ninja Overload could have been the beginning of the end. It wasn't an obviously bad move like bringing in monsters or aliens or having them go into space or fight dinosaurs. But I think the cracks were beginning to appear around this time. And it didn't ruin things, but it didn't help. The stupid colors, the clownish looking characters, the seriousness of G.I. Joe was starting to get lost in the mix. So if G.I. Joe really had to steer away from the military aspect of the toy line in order to survive the 90s, what could they have done? Maybe ninjas were a great idea. Maybe less guns and more melee weapons. Maybe less camouflage and troopers and more individual characters. Hindsight is 2020, but maybe if they dialed back the World War element of it and made it a smaller scale, they fill out the dreadnoughts and have them be more like street level punks that are causing problems, and then introduce a bunch of police and cops into G.I. Joe to oppose them. So it'd be lower level, less tanks and fighter jets and machine guns. I don't know. How do you take a military themed toy line and dial down the military theme and have it still work? I don't know if it's even possible, which is why it's such a shame that they had to try all these wacky things at the end and kind of go out on a bad note. To me, what made G.I. Joe great was the characters. And honestly, boys are going to make their toys fight each other regardless. But it was a tough time. New and fresh toy lines were getting attention, and the fan base was aging out, and G.I. Joe was in a tough spot. And they rebooted G.I. Joe several times afterwards. Some efforts were a lot better than others, but none of them were as successful. Years later, the fan base got older, made their own money, craved the nostalgia, and started paying attention again. And the target audience changed from kids to adults. So, classified collectors, what would make you stop collecting G.I. Joe Classified right now? Would it be if they flooded the toy line with a bunch of ridiculous figures? Will you stop collecting when you get the last few that you're waiting for? Will time just take over and the nostalgia will wear off, and having your figures on display and looking at them and taking photos of them just get old and you'll lose interest after a while. For me, it would be if the quality began to drop. And I don't mean the quality of the actual figures, although, yes, certainly that would be a problem, but I mean the quality of G.I. Joe Classified as a whole. In other words, if they stop introducing good characters, if they never create a new character again. I liked what they did with Mole Rat and Wolf Spider, and they haven't done a new character since. Repainting an alley viper and calling it a trench viper doesn't count. I'm talking about brand new characters that they really should be mixing into this line along the way. If everything turns into sub-teams and repaints, if Hasbro makes me feel stupid for buying the product, if they make me feel like, who cares, they'll buy whatever, give them another version of Snake Eyes, repaint this other figure that's already out and change the color of the gloves a little bit, or give them short sleeves instead of long sleeves, minimal changes like that, and repackaged and resold, those are the kind of things that'll make me leave. Because when I start feeling insulted and all these other things start adding up enough, that's when I'll be out. I'll take all this stuff back here, I'll pack it up in a big box, tape it up, put it in a closet, and once in a great, great while, I'll open it up and kind of look at them. Those moments will be few and far between, and I'll use the space behind me for something else. So Hasbro, my advice to you to keep this line going and successful is do not insult us as collectors. All right. I started talking about ninjas, and I ended up talking about the fall of G.I. Joe and where we're at in Classified right now. But hey, that's okay. Thanks again for watching, guys. G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe.